Today I want to share 10 items a tech-savvy person might consider outdated that have drastically improved my life. But they're also better than the newer alternatives in most cases, so I haven't had a reason to change them. Notebooks. Devices with screens aren't the best places to do deep thinking. If I'm trying to make a plan for my week, figure out my goals, or journal, I'd rather not do it on a screen. While researching this video, I found that when we write with pen and paper, we activate parts of the brain that typing doesn't. Those parts are associated with self-awareness and emotional regulation and help us think through things more thoroughly. Typing, on the other hand, makes things flow faster, but not necessarily as usefully. I type fast, so things can basically go from my brain to the document. But writing in a notebook forces me to slow down and think about what I'm writing. So I use notebooks, big, pocket-sized, and freeform whenever I need to strategize my life, make plans, or generally improve my mental clarity. And I've yet to find a better tool. A clock. If you use a smartphone as your alarm clock, unless you're incredibly disciplined, you're setting your mornings up to be overstimulating and potentially ruin your day. Imagine opening your eyes and the first thing you see is your boss telling you about today's workload. You look outside and it's on fire, and someone screaming at you that you're a failure before you've had your first cup of coffee. In our nervous system, that's what's happening when we check our notifications and get this dump of information first thing in the morning. When I use my phone as my alarm clock, if I wasn't super mindful about what I was doing, I'd reflexively start looking at what messages came in and fall into the dopamine vortex. But I don't want my mornings to be like that. I prefer to gather my thoughts, get clarity, plan my action items, then start my day, rather than reacting to whatever is on the screen. My days always go better that way. Using a clock obviously stops the doom scrolling, but it's also a way to see the time throughout the day without going back to my smartphone, which is always a threat to my mood, focus, and productivity. Wired headphones. I wish I knew this when I freelanced and worked from home. You can get way more work done when you wear wired over-the-air headphones versus those tiny in-ear earbuds. If you've ever worked from home, you know people tend to think that because you're at home, you're always a little bit available. It was really annoying because I'd never be able to lock in and get a good work session in unless I left the house or no one was at home. Then I discovered these bad boys. I think when people see the big wired headphones on someone, they immediately see it as a barrier to conversation. It's almost rude to require someone to take this monstrosity off of their head to tell them about a batch of laundry. I'm just kidding, but I think you do look more engaged in whatever you're doing, so people tend to leave you alone, and your entire ear being covered reduces your senses just a bit that you feel even more locked in. A physical planner. Did you know that you're 42% more likely to achieve your goals by writing them down? There are a lot of reasons why, but sometimes we're tired and we just forget. And having a visual reminder is enough of a push to get us to get something done. I use a digital calendar with reminders to plan my activities and keep me on track, but sometimes I'm not feeling it, and the reminders from my phone are very easy to ignore. That's why I combine it with my physical planner. It changes everything because I can't swipe it away. And usually it changes my mood also because I track myself with it. So when I see that I've had a couple of wins over the week, it gives me motivation on those really tiring days. But mostly I think my brain simply thinks I wouldn't have gone through the effort to write it down and put it in a place I regularly visit if I didn't really want to accomplish it. A plastic water bottle. I never thought I'd get to say this, but I'm flabbergasted. Water bottles have Bluetooth now. Some people have such a hard time drinking water that they have bottles with UV lights, drink tracking, and USB charging. Maybe I'm ignorant, but I don't think a water bottle is something that should be able to run out of battery life. If you don't drink enough water, you probably don't like to drink water, or you drink too many other things throughout the day. Not that your bottle isn't running the latest software. I struggle to consistently drink enough water sometimes too, so I use this see-through 1.5 liter plastic water bottle and I carry it with me wherever I go. It never runs out of battery because it doesn't have any, and I can see my water consumption pretty clearly because, well, it's see-through. Yeah, I don't even care if I sound judgy on this one, it's silly. But if I'm wrong and you want to send me an electronic water bottle to change my mind, then reach out. Library card. If you have either of these two problems, I think a library card can drastically improve your life. If you're trying to save money and have low-cost entertainment, or if you work at home. When I worked from home and I couldn't get anything done or I wanted a change of scenery, I originally went to cafes and worked there. But very quickly I found out that cafes costed a lot of money because I had to keep buying things if I wanted to spend the full day there. I spent more than usual too because I feel a little guilty sitting with no food or drinks for too long. So to stop myself from going broke, I started going to the library instead. I got a change of scenery and the atmosphere was one that made working a lot easier, and it had a lot of interesting books I could borrow too. Some libraries even have extra goodies you can rent like movies, musical instruments and toys. And if you're a social person, I think it's easier to meet people in a library than it is in a cafe because more people go to libraries by themselves than cafes by themselves. But that could also just be where I live. Physical books. The thing that got me back into reading as an adult is that these books are literally filled cover to cover with years of people's research and experiences, and to me it's silly to have access to these things for sometimes as low as $5 or $10 and not take advantage of that. We've gotten so used to getting things done quickly that we even take our information in microdoses, like Twitter news or a 30-second short teaching you design skills. These are good but not great if you're genuinely trying to learn. There are other ways like ebooks and audiobooks to get book content now, but reading on a screen makes my eyes tired much faster than reading from a page, even when I'm using applications specifically designed for that. And when I listen to audiobooks, things don't stick as well for me if I don't see them. I still listen to audiobooks, but if I have the time, I'd prefer to sit with a real book. But however you digest them, good books are one of those things that are always worth significantly more than whatever you pay for them. Photo frames. You know, sometimes it's hard to get yourself motivated to do things, so you put a wallpaper on your phone that inspires you, and every time you see it, you get a little mood boost. I do that same thing with photo frames in my room. If I feel inspired, I might design something small, put it in a frame, and put it somewhere I go regularly. Or if I learned a lesson and I want it to stick, I'll put it in a frame and put it somewhere that's in my face constantly. I also use these when I'm chasing a big goal. I'll put a photo on the wall and it's a gentle reminder that I'm in pursuit of something. So I shouldn't do things that work against that. But I never have more than 3 at a time because then it becomes clutter and it's not useful anymore. These little things boost my mood, but I don't keep them forever. Once the value I'm getting from it passes, then I throw them away. Old hard drives. This is good for people like me who enjoy decluttering digitally, or if you're a person that works a lot with paper at home, this might be useful as well. If you're a power user with technology, or you take a lot of photos and videos to keep memories, then you've probably come across cloud storage or the newer, faster SSD drives. But depending on your needs, an old hard drive or even an old USB might work just fine. I make these videos so I have to store them, but I also work as a teacher, and I get a lot of physical gifts and cards from students every year. Those I want to save for the memories without cluttering my home. So I take photos and videos to capture the memories, then put them into folders and keep them on the hard drive, which is much easier to store. I also do this with documents that I want to keep a record of when decluttering. And when enough time passes, it's as easy as just hitting delete. I even heard that some people take photos of their possessions when decluttering because it makes it easier to donate those items. So why not use cloud storage and an SSD? Well, it's cheaper. Cloud storage is a subscription-based model, and when you want to get your information out of the cloud, you have to buy a regular hard drive anyway. And an SSD is way more than a regular user would ever need. For someone that just wants to store photos and memories with some videos, an HDD hard drive with enough memory to last you a lifetime of photos can cost only about $30 or $50 cash. Maybe you don't consider cash as something you buy, but paying withdrawal fees at the ATM is kind of like buying cash to me, so I'm gonna work with that. I find it much more useful to my wallet to use cash more than the alternatives. My problem with digital wallets, cards, and applications is that I don't feel that money leave me when I touch a screen or swipe a card, and it gives me anxiety because I want to feel as if a transaction occurred and I used something valuable in the exchange. Instead, it feels as if I got something without giving anything, and that causes me to overspend if I'm not being mindful. Using Using cash to make purchases made it easier to manage my spending, save more, and I get buyer's remorse a lot less because I can't buy something that costs more than the amount of cash I have. And I don't want to walk around with an empty wallet, so I'm more cautious of my spending. Is this for everyone? Probably depends a lot on where you live and how easy it is to get by with cash only, but I think this is an incredibly useful thing in my life. And if you enjoyed this and want more minimalist style content, then hit subscribe and check out this video here.